All right. And it's not Saturday night, but it is Tuesday, February 1st. And you guys know the deal. I only bring the best of the best to you, for you. And the woman that you are about to meet is not only a very, very, very special friend of mine, but she is going to be somebody that's going to allow you to access something you already have, but probably aren't using to the degree that you can, not just in your career, in your life. Dunia has been born with a very special gift, and we all are born with a gift. The question is, how are we honing in on it, and are we using it in our day-to-day life, in our careers, in just every interaction? And I am so thrilled for you guys to meet her. Hello, good morning from Canada, from Montreal. Thank you for getting up and making this happen today. So Dunia, please do us a little solid and share with us how you knew you had this gift.
Wow, that's like quite the story that I'm going to shrink up into a very effective description. So nice to see everyone on here. It's been such a pleasure to get to meet and work with Lauren. It's been an absolute gift. So how did I find out I had this gift? There were some distinct experiences that I've had along the way that were quite mystical, almost miracle-like experiences that I kept having that just kept blowing my mind. And I said, as a little girl, I thought, oh, everyone must go through this. Everyone must have these experiences and these stories. And when I would share them with certain people, no, I've never lived that. That's quite different. And it got to a certain point where I said, maybe I need to start paying attention to this. And the first person I spoke to was my mom. My mom had intuitive gifting in her own childhood, worked as an intuitive in her 20s, walked away from the field, and ended up in corporate fashion. So it was something that when I came across it, I was like, oh, thank God I have someone to talk about it with. In 2009, unfortunately, I lost my mom. So since then, it's been a self-discovery of this never-ending unfolding of this gift, and it's led me in so many beautiful and sacred places. So honestly, it's life. Life showed me that I had this gift and kept reminding me until I just owned it.
Yes, you owned it. I love that. And you do own it, but you also so generously give it away. And that's one of the things that's happening right here and now on this live this morning. And so part of the kind of, I guess you could say maybe resistance around this is coming from the fact that we live in a world of social proof. We must know, we must read reviews, we must have, X number of people that chime in on our engagement, and that validates information, sometimes expertise. Why do people get testimonials? Oh, this person is said to be X, Y, and Z. Yeah. So the question really is, with all of this social proof and our fascination and dependence on it, the question is, how are these tangible and seemingly intangible factors coexisting, and how can we intertwine them?
So one of the key things to keep in mind is no matter how much evidence we have, in the end, it's our gut that makes the decision. So there's a big piece of, now we're in a world that constantly needs proof, constantly needs validation, constantly needs all of this information to come through to be able to make a decision. While in those rapid 1-second moments, oftentimes we don't have this information. We don't have the time to filter through all of it. So how do we choose what's the next move to make? What is the right thing to say in this moment? What do we move forward to and away from? And oftentimes we really need to tune into that inner knowing. And we forget that brilliance, your body already knows what's the next move to make. So one of the things that's really interesting with this world is the tangible proof. And I shared this with you the other day, this concept of the number 8 numerology. And I think that the 8 is a beautiful symbol, something really simple that everyone understands. The 8, it has those two little balls, one on top of the other, often looks like the infinity sign, right side up. Well, the tangible proof that they're here, the day-to-day, the tangible, everything that we can touch and feel, everything that's evidence-based is really like the bottom of the 8. It's the base. It's what's happening in the here and now. And this more esoteric, those ideas that come from up there that don't make much sense to anyone until they come through into reality is more of the top of the 8. So oftentimes we think of spirituality and people that use their intuition as they live in the top of their 8, but they never land. They're airy-fairy. In French, you say, la tête dans la lune. They have their head in the clouds. They're just fluttering around. And then you have those that live in the bottom of the 8. They're very in the box, by the box, totally by the book, don't tend to step out of their comfort zone, constantly need proof before making a decision. The magic happens in between both. To be able to dance between both. How do I move out of my comfort zone, reach out for things that may not make sense on paper today, but will really stretch me? And then how do I bring it into reality? How do I bring it into my day-to-day? So this is why I love this concept of the 8 and constantly being reminded, am I stretching myself far enough out and am I bringing it into reality rather than staying in one of those realms? So this is one of the key pieces that we often don't think about. We tend to fit in one category or the other and forget where's that middle piece.
So perfect to segue into this next piece because, as I was prepping for this and doing some research, I found out that here it is. The Yale School of Medicine has been using psychics and consultants since 2014. Diane von Furstenberg, Stephen Jobs, John Donovan, Craig Kallman, all these people who are leaders in their areas are also not just using this intuition and psychic gifts, but they are making decisions in large businesses. I mean, Stephen Jobs, like he kind of like a good example. Diane von Furstenberg, brilliant entrepreneur and CEO, right? And so the question is, for all of us here watching, the Venkats, the Cynthias, the Jacobs that are here right now, help us understand how we can use this in our careers, because so much of what is happening is predicated by so many things that appear tangible. What's on my resume?
Yeah.
How am I going to score this interview? Where am I going to, how am I going to nail down my compensation? So these things are very evidence-based, very tangible. So how do we bring these other intangibles in a way that we can trust and rely on?
So one of the key pieces is reminding ourselves that even though these studies have been happening since 2014, all throughout history, some of the key players have been using psychics, intuitives, alternative healing modalities to be able to step far outside of their comfort zone and get that invisible competitive edge that other people aren't thinking about. To go to where you've never been, you have to be willing to do something you've never done. And so these pieces oftentimes like, well, I've mastered the health, I have the nutrition down, the mindset's there, my performance reports are saying this and that. What is that one thing you've never done that is so outside of your realm of reality that you're like, whoa, okay, this is bringing a whole other ingredient to the mix. So a lot of these pieces also, when working with a client, there are oftentimes blocks that they can't see that you will not find on paper. It's like an energetic block that they turn a blind spot to, saying, there's no way I want to look at this. And oftentimes just bringing that into the awareness, bringing that into a realm of consciousness is like, whew, ready to receive, ready to unlock and move on to the next piece. And it's funny, when I was thinking about this LinkedIn Live, there was this visual that kept coming up. And, we've either all had children or been children that have played video games. And there's always this moment when, you get to that level and you can't get through that door because it's locked and you need to beat the boss or achieve the mission and get that piece. Life will not send you the next level until you unlock this level. This level has its lesson, there's this moment where it's like, oh my God, it landed. Like Now I get it. Now I know why I've been running in circles, repeating the cycle over and over again in different areas or phases of my life. And now it makes sense. Now I can release this and move on to the next piece.
All right. So when we see those patterns and we're ready for the next level, give us some clarity on how we can not just accept it, but then activate it, right? Because it's one thing to be like, okay, I'm here, like I'm ready for this. Now, what do I do with it? What do I do?
Yeah, one of the pieces is we don't realize how just the awareness is the biggest unlocking piece, okay?
Right.
So oftentimes we think, oh my God, what am I gonna have to do? Just the awareness is going to lead you so much further than you believe, okay? Because once the awareness comes, there is clarity on what comes next. The actions get simple. There's an energetic pull, which we're going to talk about in the terms of alignment. That's a big thing. That energetic pull towards what's right for me and a pushback of, no, that does not feel good. Like, I can't tell you why on paper, but there's just something that just says no within. So those pieces that come after those moments of consciousness, of clarity, of like this landing, there are certain steps that one can take to get to this clarity. And that's what I would really focus on. One is the alignment. How do I get into alignment? What is alignment? Alignment is like a restructuring. Everything comes back into place into my energetic field. Things are aligned. So one of the things to see, symptoms, I'd say, of alignment versus misalignment. Alignment. Everything is in flow. Everything's moving. Even when there are hiccups, it feels like it's for the best. And there's this smoothness of moving through it. It feels like everything in your energetic field, your life, your work, your career, your family, your personal life, everything seems to be in total equilibrium. Even the things that seem messy, imperfect, clumsy, are just like, there's this peace. It's just like, yeah, this is exactly how it's meant to be. And when there's a misalignment, it feels like we're hitting a wall. We can't move. There's frustration, there's anger, there's resentment, there's anxiety, there's this, and it's not this like, I know it's going to come when it's going to need to come. There's two completely different energies to those things. So alignment would definitely be one of the first things to focus on.
So I just want to interject this because there may be some people here. If you are in this situation, please do not feel any resistance to join in this conversation in the comments, who are going through a lot of misalignment right now. They've been laid off. Things don't feel aligned because so much is in flux. Their future seems very uncertain, or there's a lot of fear that is going on. So help us to understand, okay, if I'm in that situation, because I can get out of alignment really fast. How do I realign?
Yeah. So there are
listen to that intuition and trust.
Totally. So there are some key pieces to alignment. Alignment's going to look so different for each and every person, but there's this really juicy list that belongs to every single one of us. What is something that you can do that you're like, I feel so good when I do this? I feel like myself. I feel like my true, authentic self from A to Z. This list may also look like things that where time and space completely start to disappear. It's like 2 hours, like I gotta run. So these pieces are going to get you back into alignment. Obviously, there are pieces like Reiki, energetic healing, all kinds of other healing modalities that you can add to the mix. But we know there are certain key things that we do throughout our year or throughout our day or throughout our week that it's like, when I get into that zone, I feel like every star aligns. Like
the Bee Gees, every time, it's no fail. I want to just throw out this comment or add this comment in here. Yes, but knew in my gut before I took the position, realigning now.
Yes.
So, I hear this so regularly. I hear this almost every day. I wish I had listened to my gut, my instincts, because I knew either that this company was not going to be what I thought it was, or I took the role for the wrong reasons, but I took it anyway and I didn't listen, or here I am, I saw the writing on the wall, but I ignored it, and a lot of that a lot of that is human, right? It's human because we want what we want when we want it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have the opportunity to always get it. And so listening to that is really important. And I love what you were talking about in terms of finding that thing where time disappears,
Yeah,
vaporizes, and
yeah.
bring that level of joy. Anything else that is part of that like
Yes.
non-negotiable way to bring you back into alignment?
One thing to keep in mind is every level of life is going to require different things to get you into alignment. Okay? What got you in alignment a year ago may no longer work. And be okay with that. Be flexible with yourself. I'm very rebellious and creative in my approach to this kind of work, like rules and this is the only way, and so not my style. That doesn't interest me. I see it as a door. Like I see it as a house. Okay. So intuition, life is a house. You can come in through the front door, you come in through the back door, you can get a ladder and come in through the second floor in the window. Like there's a million different ways to get into a house. And whoever tells you there's one way to get into a house, not my kind of person, you know?
Right.
So one of the things to keep in mind is this concept of realignment. Sometimes we need to get out of alignment to get back into our new alignment. So these pieces of like, oh, I knew it, but I didn't listen. You had to know it and you had to not listen to it to understand what it's like to hear it and then listen to it. And like, no, you know what I mean? So one of the pieces is like, give yourself grace. Like it's such a journey. Like that road is going to have twists and turns, and that's what makes it a story. Like that's what makes it where chapter 3 was a party and chapter 4 was an adventure and chapter 5 was so blissful, and then little did we know what was going to happen in 6. And know that those stories, like we oftentimes see it from our human experience, from our fleshiness, like, oh, I made this mistake, and like, oh, like I knew. But if we took ourselves out of our body for just a quick second and imagined ourselves as this beautiful eagle flying above, looking at ourselves, having this experience on the planet, we'd say, wow, what a beautiful adventure. Yeah, they got stuck in the mud there. It's kind of funny. Like, uh-oh. But
right.
little
It's always funny in hindsight, right? But to bring it together, Karen Blades, I want to thank you so much. What are some recommendations on getting in alignment versus listening to the should do chorus in your head? Great question.
Totally. So one of the things, and I'll give some examples from myself that may start the ball, get the ball rolling in your own minds. Okay. I know in the summertime in Montreal, we have it from, I'd say May to about November. When I'm in my garden and my hands are in the dirt and I'm just planting these beautiful blooms that are coming to life at different stages of the summer, everything else in the world can melt and I wouldn't even notice. Right. For me, that is my moment of total alignment. There are moments when I'm in that hot yoga class and it's so sweaty that I can't even think anything else but my breath in the next position that I need to get into. That's my way of getting to alignment. And a lot of people think meditation doesn't work traditionally for everyone. You want to get into a meditative state. You're also going to notice, okay, the more you taste alignment, the more you'll get really annoyed every time you fall right out of it. You'll be like 1 degree off your alignment and you're going to feel it. Like it's just I'm a little uncomfortable. Something's not right. And that's beautiful because you're going to get more and more sensitive to it. The double-edged sword with it, though, is if you taste alignment enough, you won't be able to lie to yourself for very long when you're out of alignment.
So I want you to talk about one of my favorite phrases that you use, the check engine light. Could you talk about the check engine light? Because this is something that I've stolen.
Totally.
And I use it now with myself.
Yeah.
And so share what the check engine light is for us and how it applies to intuition.
So when we hit those walls of frustration or certain emotions like anger, resentment, bitterness, when something says, oh, there's just something that's getting under my skin, it's saying, check engine light, take a pause, pull over, recenter, pop open the hood, take a look. What's going on? You know, are all the parts of my engine, are all the parts of my alignment in my life really in place? Is this motor still working for me and where I'm going?
Right. So
Because
when the check engine light comes on, it doesn't mean throw your foot on the gas and keep going. That's what I used to do, right? It's
a
like
lot of us do.
ignore that. It must be some kind of crazy place that that I can just override.
Absolutely. Because how often as a child were we said, you don't feel so good? Wait, tune in. Listen, is there something happening within your body? When you go to your doctor, does the doctor say, what do you think it is? I'm telling you, I haven't had that experience very often. I would have hoped so, but it hasn't happened very often with doctors. They say, Dunia, what do you, if I were to ask you what you think it is, what is it? We aren't encouraged to ignite within that wisdom and that knowing because it's in your body. When we hit that point, we're like, I always knew. Like, I just always freaking knew. Even if it was this tiny little whisper, this little itty bitty hunch, you know, even if we couldn't have painted the whole picture, life's not asking you to predict it all. Life's asking you to trust that inner hunch, that inner knowing.
Yes. Yes. So I know that you also have a couple of these catchphrases that have been not only very powerful for people, for lay people like me, right? Like everyone understands check engine light. What other coin phrases are maybe the next, you know, 2 or 3 that are really, really important for us to be able to use, because they are so, and this is one of the reasons why I not only love you, but I respect you so much, because you're working with people who are not necessarily like, you know, all in on woo-woo, right?
Oh, totally.
Not everyone is.
Totally.
And you've brought it to such an accessible level that makes us understand. Everyone understands check engine light. And so what other things should we put on our radar?
So, and I love this question, and I love the fact that you recognize this. Like, there's so much value to this woo field, but it's also not practical in many ways. Like, a lot of the average person doesn't get, oh, ascension from the 5th dimension. And it's like, what is this person talking about? There's a great book called Practically Divine. I'll mention books later, but it's a reminder before I get into these catchphrases, there is the divine in the practical. Like, there are the most mind-blowing miracles in the simplest things that we see every single day. And, you know, one of the biggest blessings in my life, when my mom passed, my dad's an industrial engineer, and you could have imagined the look on his face when I told him I wanted to go into this field, and life was sending me signals and messages that I had no choice. He was like, what are you freaking talking about? And what graph can explain what's going on here?
Exactly.
And so it's been such a beautiful journey of discovering, what is this like from human eyes? What is this like in our day-to-day? So one of the things that I love using as one of my visuals is when people ask, so intuition, like, what is it and how does it work and how does someone tap into it? And I always have this visual of this DJ with all these little sound knobs, because we're all so different. What's going to work for me is not going to work for you, is not going to work for your neighbor or your mother or your brother or your children. So learning and getting to know the knobs of your life. Oh, if I turn this up, how do I feel? Oh, if I turn that down, how do I feel? Well, if I totally pause this, like, let's put that on. What is that experience like? Yeah, exactly. And what's fun with the soundboard is it also touches on frequency. Really, our goal is to get to the right frequency for us. What is that piece of alignment where it just feels like, oh yeah, I don't know what's going on in the universe. I don't know what's going on with life, but it just feels like I'm exactly where I need to be.
I love the DJ thing. First of all, who doesn't want to play DJ all the time? And second of all, it requires a lot of playing around, right? Yeah. It's not going to be the same for every venue. It's not going to be the same for, you know, every. I I
love
need to
the
be in
red
the
meat
disco all
pumpkin.
the time, but
Yeah.
sometimes other people don't want to be in the disco. So I really, that's a great one. The motherboard or the tuning forks that you get to play around with your intuition. Anything else that we want to park in our brain?
Yes. So a lot of people think like, how do I clear my energy? How do I clear my space? So I want to talk about clearing energy. And then I want to talk about protecting energy. So a lot of people in the spiritual space saying, oh, you need to light a candle. Oh, you need to light sage. In my world, I think you can light anything on fire and it works, or you could choose not to light anything on fire. Like you could choose to pour water off on everything. And the reason why it doesn't matter is you are the greatest instrument of your life. We've all had this. I don't care if you believe in spirituality or not. We've all had this experience when someone walked into the room and you're like, well, the mood just changed in the air.
Hell yeah.
Everyone's had that experience. Why? Because we are the most powerful instruments there are. So what does that mean? If I believe and I drink this water bottle that it's filled with magical energy and I am convinced from my head to my toe, let me tell you, I'm going to act very different once this water is drank. What happens too is if I believe that lighting this candle is going to change the frequency of this room, it's going to work. If I don't believe in the candle lighting, it's not going to work. No matter how many candles someone lights, like the whole house can be on fire. And I'm like, still, it's not doing it for me. So what is something that helps the majority of people? I say music. So I call it salt, sage, and music. So I have friends that it's like, hey, I'm just going to take a salt bath, put some magnesium salts in there and like totally tune out my day. And they feel like a different person coming out of the water. Boom. That works for this person. Sage, if they want to run around with a sage stick and light it on fire, if that works, run with it. Like do it. If turning on your favorite tunes and just having a dance party for half an hour just to shift your mood works, do that. So knowing what is that list that you're like, oh yeah, the whole room changes when I tune into these. These are just tools, but don't forget you are the instrument.
Absolutely. I love that because the example that you used when the mood changes, when that person comes in, it could be uplifting or it could just suck you out of the room, right? It's really tangible. We all know that. And I want to just also use this as a great springboard to think about when you are networking, when you are interviewing, when you are looking at an organization and you're talking to people that work there, to understand, again, stay open-minded. Doesn't mean like that, that this is gospel, but you also need to tune into it as well. Because if you start seeing that theme over and over again, like I did in my last corporate job and ignored it, it's not a myth, right? It's like that's real stuff. And I have so many people, especially here, who talk all the time about culture. Culture. It is the number one thing that every person I talk to says that they want in their next role. So if culture is so important to you, tap into the pieces that check your alignment with this culture. Because they can say whatever they want on their corporate speak website, and you're going to live it. So balance those two things together. I want to also, we're going to have to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but I want to also make sure that people have some resources, not only to find you, but also that they can start to use to build their own, aptitude around intuition. So help us.
So some of the things I would really focus on when it comes to intuition is getting into that alignment. What are your requirements to get into that alignment? The next piece is healing. There are parts of your reality, your life, your history, your subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, that are holding you back from what's coming for you. What's the next piece? And whether you want to pay attention or ignore these, invisible shackles, they're there. It's time to break them. So that healing piece is really important. It's like we can get into alignment all day, but if there's something we're ignoring in the background, it's going to come. That check engine light's not going to go off. So keep this in mind. And definitely those energy levels, paying attention to mood and energy. when I get off a phone call, do I feel uplifted? Do I feel like I'm booming with energy, or do I feel exhausted, totally drained? Your body already knows your answers.
I love the invisible shackles, right? I also notice, and especially when, there's news of layoffs, recession, hiring freezes, that people start getting into that scarcity mindset, and they start thinking, oh my God, somehow, some way, there's not going to be enough opportunities for me. And either I need to not spend money, or I need to figure out, how to be smaller so that I can subsist a little bit longer in this place. And so some of that can be in that invisible shackles, right? And convincing yourself that that all of these outside circumstances are really going to override a lot of the other internal pieces. And so I'm not saying disregard news. I'm just saying put it in the eights, right?
Yes.
Put it in the eights.
Put it straight, stretch for more. I always say, if there's 20 people in a room and the lights go off, one person's looking for the switch, who's going to find it? Stay focused on that switch. Stay focused on that switch.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Any materials, either Audible books, anything that I did download a book I was sharing with you the other day by Laura Day that was really, really good. She's one of the foremost intuits in the world. So help us also understand what we can do, how we can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So you can get in touch with me through LinkedIn, through Instagram, through email. There are many different ways. Some of the books that I do want to recommend, if you want to read on this, remember, there are a few steps I recommend even before going to books, because there's tons of books for every level of intuition or interest in this field. One of them that I loved was Personal Power Through Awareness. This is a book that I read years ago by Sanaya Raman. Very, very, very good. Then there are some classics, like if you're interested in past lives and healing around certain things, with kind of making peace with the beginning and the end of life, is Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist who discovered past lives through hypnotherapy, was, not informed about them before. He wrote also Only Love is Real, another great book. And you'll find tons of books around this. But the right thing is, more than anything, invest in you, invest in your well-being, your alignment, your healing, because all the books, it's just going to feel like oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, of course. But tune in here first to begin with.
Tune in here first to begin with. We'll put those book titles in, Kelly. She said, I missed that book title. And thank you, Denise. Music, Salt Bath is key. Awesome. I love this. Thank you, Jennifer. Personal Power Through Awareness. We have such a great audience. Yay, Ashley. Love the check engine light. Yes. And Cynthia, of course. Yes. Best phrase. And I use it all the time when I'm frustrated. I'm like, whoa, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's really good. Another Kelly, Carrie, sorry. When you taste alignment, right? Remember that taste. And the ever loyal, wonderful Andy York. We also have our mutual friend, Go Team, Amit. What got us here will not take us there. It's like different elevators for higher floors. Awesome.
Well said. Very well said.
100%, Amit. 100%. I had a spiritual friend a long time ago, and he would say, at every level, there's a new devil.
Ooh,
I was like,
that's kind of like
that's really important. Really important, because we always need to be up leveling. And you have been such a force, such a huge, huge, huge force in helping me to understand. I mean, we did some mirror work in our last mastermind. Thank you, Vamsi. That blew my mind. A lot of things around human design, also mind blowing. So we will be seeing more of you, Dunia, and I know that you're coming to Chief, which is going to be fantastic. And so for any of the chiefs that are here, stay tuned, because there's more to come. And thank you. Thank you for
Oh.
making this so special. And thank you for taking such good care of all of us, and myself included.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. It's so lovely to connect with each and every one of you.
All right. Peace out. We'll stay in the studio for a few minutes.